2026 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Dave, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Alternate Commissioner Scott.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Fode.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Caird.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Bougie.
Here.
Commissioner McGuire.
Here.
Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Coles.
Present.
Commissioner Goodrich.
Present.
Commissioner Britton.
Here.
Vice Chair Chaplinsky.
Here.
And Chair Wolowski.
Wolowski's here. With that, we have a quorum. Can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of April 7, 2026.
So moved.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion carries. Any commissioner discussion?
I just want to mention that we will be having a presentation by our friends from SLR tonight regarding the 2026 Plan of Conservation and Development, so that'll be coming along later in the meeting. Just a heads up on that.
Stick around.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move, chairman's comments. Going to read the meeting rules and guidelines. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Southington Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Stephen Wolowski, Chair of the Commission, and I would like to take a few minutes to explain the meeting format. Aside from administrative items, tonight's meeting is comprised of two parts, the public hearing and the business meeting. During the public hearing, the applicant will present the application to us in detail, which will allow the commission members and the public the opportunity to better understand what is being proposed. The commission members may ask questions during the presentation if needed. Then we will ask members of the public who support or oppose the application to speak. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Once recognized, come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please address all comments directly to the chair and not to the applicant or other members of the public. Be advised that this is your opportunity to ask questions and make comments on the application, because once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony from the public or the applicant will be permitted. It is important to maintain order and decorum at all times during the meeting. After everyone has had a full opportunity to speak, all the questions have been answered and all the information has been received, we will decide whether it is appropriate to close the hearing. We will not consider voting on the application until the business meeting. During the business meeting, we will deliberate on the applications submitted to the commission and decide how to act on them. The commission may approve the application as submitted, approve it with stipulations, conditions, or modifications, table action for a future meeting, or in some cases, deny the application. 4 affirmative votes of the commission are generally required to approve any application. If you leave the meeting before a decision is rendered, you may call the planning department tomorrow afternoon to get the results of tonight's meeting. All right, with that, we're going to reopen the public hearing on item A, Southington 2 LLC petition to change zoning boundary district from I2 zone to B zone, properties located at 682 Curtis Street and a portion of 115 Summit Farms Road. This is zoning change number 585. I'll defer to the applicant.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is John Nuff. I'm at 42 Cherry Street in Milford, Connecticut. As you know, we were here 2 weeks ago, and we all do work in lots of different towns. A lot of towns only meet once a month. It's really appreciative from an applicant's perspective when a commission takes the time to meet twice a month, because there's some momentum, there's a flow. We all remember what we talked about more recently. So as we were closing the meeting last time, we went off about a discussion about those parcels. And I realized that, frankly, we didn't do a very good job of explaining to the commission all the challenges related to those parcels. And I think it is worth spending a few minutes talking about that. So we're gonna do a couple of things tonight. First, we want to talk about the one parcel that is closest to the residential neighbors that is not part of our project. So take that off the table. Two, we're going to talk about the 3 parcels that are part of our project and the challenges that those parcels face, including one of them doesn't even have frontage on a road. So we're going to talk about that briefly. And then we also want to show you, the overall concept plan, because I know that, again, there was concerns justifiably from the neighbors. If you approve the zone change, what could go there and how will it impact my life? Well, because of certain constraints and just physical issues with those properties, such as the power lines and the topography and the wetlands, there's going to be a substantial buffer to the closest residential neighbors. Of the closest people will be 600 to 700 feet away. So we want to talk about those 3 things in particular. I know that some of the commission members are here this evening. They weren't here last time. I know that's probably there's school vacation this time of year. So we can answer any questions that arise from, the folks who weren't able to be here last time. And then also, we had submitted responses to the town engineer and to David LaValle's memos. And those sort of came in at the several days before the meeting. You all acknowledged that you didn't have time to read them, which is understandable, so we can answer any questions you have about those. I would note, however, that we have gotten a reply from the town engineer. Oh, thanks. A reply from the town engineer saying he was satisfied with our responses, but we'll walk you through those as well. So with that very brief introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Soley, our professional engineer, and he's going to talk about those 3 topics I just described.
Is that going to help you?
I don't, we have a direct connection into the HDMI, but it's like, it's mirroring. Just might take a second. We got it to work last time. access to the internet, I could get to it that way.
I know you did.
If I can get to the internet, I can pull it up.
Run home and get my projector. This is Secretary of State. Oh, okay, so you get it.
Sorry about this. It's not loading. I didn't bring it up in draft. Let me try this one more time. Here we go. My apologies, sorry about that. We're up and running. Again, for the record, my name is Kevin Soley. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Soley Engineering. Office is located at 501 Main Street in Monroe, Connecticut. So again, just to kind of rehash what we talked about last week. So our client has 3 properties under contract. This application is for a zone change for 682 Curtis Street and a portion of 115 Summit Farms Road. One of the big comments and discussions that we had last week was about 109 Summit Farms Road, which is the parcel closest to the residents to the north of us. That parcel is not part of our client's assemblage. That is the closest one and has that small finger of access to that residential street. That is not subject to this application. That is not subject to the zone change. That is not part of any potential development plan, so there'd be no impact or change to that parcel. But as Attorney Nuff mentioned, we wanted to kind of really focus on the barriers of development to these existing industrial parcels. So 99 Smoron Drive, that is the site that was recently approved for industrial development but has not yet commenced or secured activity there. There are a number of constraints. There are limited utilities. There's no gas service available. There are on-site wetlands. High-tension utility lines traverse the site. The elevation ranges from elevation 160 all the way up to elevation 215, so 55 feet of elevation change. And then all traffic is really required to pass through residential areas to access that parcel. Again, that's 99 Smoron Drive. And then you can see here just some of the wetland constraints, some of the topography, and again, those high-tension electric easement lines and easement utilities which run through and traverse the property. 682 Curtis Street, that parcel is what is subject to the zone change we're requesting. This also has considerable site constraints as well. And just to orient everyone, that's this parcel here. It has limited utilities. There's no water, no gas, no sewer available along its frontage. And that frontage is very minimal. There's only 117 feet of frontage on Curtis Street for that entire 34-acre parcel. There are extensive on-site wetlands. There are high-tension utility lines. There are water distribution lines which cut through the property. And the elevation range on that property goes from elevation 175 all the way up to 260. So there's nearly 100 foot of grade change across that property. And for anything to happen here, there'd have to be extensive improvements to Curtis Street to accommodate any industrial use on that parcel. And again, you can see here, you can see the extensive topo with a high point closest to Interstate 84. Those water distribution lines cut through the center of the property, and you also have those high-tension electric lines towards the north of the property, which again establishes and protects and maintains a pretty extensive buffer from those residential parcels to the north. And then 115 Summit Farms Road, we are proposing to change a portion of that property to commercial zoning from its existing industrial zoning. Just to orient everyone, this parcel is approximately 20 acres. It is completely landlocked, so it has no frontage on any public way. It has very limited utilities, no gas, no water, no sewer. Potential development access would have to come from 109 Summit Farms Road, 682 Curtis Street, or potentially Smoron Drive. There are extensive on-site wetlands, high-tension utility lines, water distribution lines, and the elevation range on that property is from elevation 240 to 185, so approximately 55 feet of grade change. So the development potential for this property as it exists for industrial zone is essentially nil because there's no way to get to it. And again, this map just shows some of that topography. There's a small wetland that traverses the property here, those water distribution lines, those electric distribution lines. So this is really an undevelopable piece under its current zoning and current configuration, as there's no way to access it. So again, this is the existing zoning map with all of this currently being zoned industrial. Again, we are proposing to change 682 Curtis Street and a small portion of 115 Summit Farms Road to the business zone to allow for the catalyst for something that could create considerable economic investment and really be the impetus for any of these parcels to really be developed. As we've discussed, this is the first step in a multi-star process, but if this zone change was deemed favorably, we would be proposing a subdivision road, which would, again, create that frontage road along I-84, provide that vehicular access to really intersect a lot of that traffic, which currently goes up West Street and across all those residential areas, and to really create that improved transportation network to bring those vehicles from west all the way over to Spring and then to Queen Street. And we wanted to kind of talk about some of the site constraints, because the site constraints really ensure a substantial buffers to those nearby residences will be maintained in perpetuity. For 682 Curtis Street, again, those high-tension utility lines to the north of any potential development. And again, the water distribution lines is another hindrance, which again creates significant challenges for the development of the site that really needs and requires that larger anchor to be the economic driver to make any of these development opportunities even an opportunity. And just to show, there was a lot of discussion about separations from those residential neighbors. We wanted to show that, you know, from the two closest houses, you can see here there are pretty extensive woods behind their houses on their properties, and then after their properties, there are, you know, 640 and over 700 feet to the limit of our development. So there's an extensive wooded buffer on their properties that would remain, obviously, wooded buffers between the high-tension utility lines and their properties, and then we'd even be able to maintain a significant amount of vegetation on our side of those lines to further buffer and minimize any potential impact to those surrounding residential areas. 115 Summit Farms Road, again, you can see the separation. We're considerably further away from those closest residential properties to our north. And again, those high-tension electric lines cut through, that water line cuts through, and our subdivision road would really keep all that development on the highway side to minimize any potential impact to those abutters. And then again, this is the approved industrial building on Smoron, which again, hasn't really been able to, we believe, be activated because of all these challenges with access, utilities, and everything else that we've talked about. Again, there was discussion about the additional improvements that would come along with this. We presented at the last hearing, you know, a considerable, nearly $15 million of infrastructure improvements, which would come along with the next step of this if the zone change is deemed favorably. We talked about a lot of those improvements to Curtis Street and West Street, adding additional capacity along that area roadway network to accommodate, you know, our proposed frontage road and any of the potential development, which would be a considerable improvement from what's out there today. Again, Curtis Street today is narrow, it's windy. There's pretty extensive topography. As part of a future subdivision application, we'd be proposing to improve that to, you know, much higher commercial standards, and again, continue that through that frontage road all the way over to the, you know, the eastern side of Spring and then over to Queen Street. Mr. Poland is here again, I think, to answer any questions. We did go over these, his economic benefit and fiscal impact at the last hearing. I think he's here to answer any other questions you may have, and I think at that point, we'd be happy to continue answering questions from the commission and, you know, address any other comments that may be raised by the public.
Kevin, I'm going to interrupt for one second. Just for the benefit of folks who weren't here 2 weeks ago, can you just run through the utilities that we would be bringing in? Because you were very explicit in terms of what utilities are not available, so maybe you can spend a second telling me like what we will be doing as part of the subdivision.
I can, and
Excuse me,
again,
the presentation is yours, and you're allowed to do whatever you choose, but I will indicate that the commissioners that were not present were asked to and did
okay.
look at the minutes and the video, and so they're up to speed. So, you know, if you'd
Excellent.
like to use your time that way, the floor is yours, but I just wanted to point that out to both you and the public, that those that weren't here are up to speed.
I'll just summarize super quickly rather than showing in graphical representations. But again, we'd be proposing to install approximately 6,700 linear feet of water main extension, 4,000 linear feet of sewer main extension, over 5,000 feet of electric, telephone, cable communication services, and approximately 6,000 square feet, just under 6,000 square feet of gas main extension as part of this, again, which will activate additional opportunities for other you know, surrounding properties with this massive infrastructure improvement that we would be proposing. Again, if this zone change is the first step, we're viewed favorably.
You know, the one other thing I want to remind the commission is this industrial area is in the enterprise zone. And I think what Kevin just described is why even with those benefits, it is a tremendous challenge to develop these parcels in the fashion that is envisioned by your zone map. And we have made the commitments that we would not take advantage of any of the tax breaks that would come with being in the enterprise zone, and in fact do just the opposite, which is, you know, propose and install all these other massive utility improvements. So, Captain, you understand the question? And I think you all know, but you can't build underneath the power line. So if there's any question of, well, couldn't you just slide your building back? No, you can't, because, you know, those easements, you know, have been around for decades. Everyone does the same thing. You can't put anything underneath them for obvious reasons, so.
You gentlemen all set?
Yep, all set, thanks.
Okay. So that'll conclude your portion for the public hearing?
Yeah, if you have any questions, we're
Well,
more than happy
open
to.
it up to the commissioners at this point, so thank you. At that point, any questions or comments from the commission?
I have multiple questions.
Sure. Justin?
Request
floor
to
is
be
yours.
recognized.
Yes, sir.
What will be the order of operations for this development?
Order of operations?
The way I'm looking at it, there are multiple parts of this development. You have the zone change, the public road improvements, the private throughway that will become a public road, the commercial, the box store, gas station, hotel, the industrial buildings proposed, and the redrawing of the parcel lines. What is your proposed order of operations for that activity?
In terms of, let's assume that tonight or in the near future, this zone change is approved, the next thing we will do is come back with 2 applications, subdivision and wetlands, which will take us a little bit of a while. Those are approved, we'll come back to the commission again for special permits or site plan approvals for the individual buildings that we have shown you. Those get approved, we will then begin construction of that road so that the parcels can be created. There's probably some things to discuss in terms of stormwater discharge from that road and us probably maintaining the whatever infrastructure is required as a result of that. And then construction would begin on those individual buildings. As Kevin said, there's the one building that's located to the far east that has been approved, but no construction has begun. But we would hope that with this alternate access and other utilities available, that construction could begin on that, probably and again, I'm speculating, I want to be really clear, could begin at the same time as the retail portion.
The road improvements.
Right.
Unless I missed it, you mentioned the through road, but what about the public road improvements?
So that would all be handled as part of a subdivision application to create that public right-of-way. All the infrastructure, again, what would be borne by the developer, the cost to install the road, all the utilities. And that would then also create all of the individual parcel lines along that to allow for the future subsequent site plan applications for each individual parcel.
No, I mean the public road improvements. So you propose improvements on Curtis Street and widening West Street, all of that stuff. So you mentioned the road that goes through the parcels, but what about the West Street improvements, the improvements to Curtis Street?
Those would be proposed as part of the subdivision application. So it would be the next step after this zone
So
change.
all of the roads would be done at the same time?
Yes.
Prior to the commercial going up?
Yes.
And don't forget OSTA.
Yes, and again, the Office of State Traffic Administration would have an additional purview and review oversight of the application. We would start that with the subdivision because we'd look at the overall project, and then that would capture and memorialize all of those road improvements, all those right-of-way improvements, all that infrastructure work
Okay,
that would be required for the individual applications to come in.
okay. And that through road, that's also going to pass through 99 Smoron as well, right? And that'll require a right-of-way?
Correct, yes, it would be a connecting road, connecting, Curtis all the way to Smoron Drive up to Spring.
Okay, and Smoron Road is owned by a different individual than Curtis Street and 115 Summit, correct?
Smoron is, it is a public road. It ends at,
No, the property.
But this parcel,
99 Smoron.
99
Yes.
is under contract by our client.
but yes, it's a different owner currently.
Okay. And they've agreed to the right-of-way through their property?
Yes.
Okay. Did you mention you weren't sure why that building had not been developed? Was that not part of the contract negotiations? As far as, I looked, and there's currently leased property, future to be leased property, listed online for that property. So was that not part of the negotiations or contract?
I can take it.
I mean, I'm not sure how it's relevant in this context, but
Well,
yes.
it's a road running through that property, so if that person has a way to stop that in any way, shape, or form,
Well, no.
then that would have the.
No, we're under contract to purchase that parcel.
Purchase form.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the case with all these parcels. We would be acquiring them and then creating the subdivision, so.
Okay, That clears out for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was just confused because there was, two different owners.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's a separate entity requesting the zoning change. So I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that everyone was on the same page.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And there wasn't someone who would be coming back later and saying, I never approved to have.
Oh,
a
no,
road."
No,
no.
they would all be applicants.
Okay,
And by
Joint
the way,
applicants.
we wouldn't have standing to make an application for someone else's property unless we had a contract for it.
okay. That
Right.
clears up a lot of that for
Okay,
me.
got it.
I really
Good.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
What state level approvals are still required, like for the gas station and things like that?
Okay, there's a host of them.
All right.
And so you should take some comfort in this. As Kevin said, we need the Office of State Traffic Administration for a large traffic generator. That's a very elaborate and lengthy process. I'm sure we're gonna need a DOT encroachment permit. We'll need a DEP general permit for construction activities. We'll need a deep general permit for discharge of stormwater for commercial activities. What am I missing?
Location approval for the fueling facility?
Oh, yes, location approval for the fuel facility. That's from the Department of Consumer Protection.
Okay. And, let's see, the report provided mentions the traffic study that was used to determine the signaling. Is that available? Was that provided, or did I
So
miss that?
it would be, the zone change was a little premature. It would be included as part of a subsequent subdivision application.
Okay. And then the new road runs across several easements, water, electrical, et cetera. Do you perceive any issues with not being able to get approval for that road over those easements?
We've met with the utility providers preliminarily to talk about our concept. There are a lot of, roadways and driveways which traverse those. You're allowed for perpendicular drives, and one of the challenges here is from a topographic standpoint is we have to really match the grade where we want to have that activity. We're not allowed to come in and substantively, alter the grades within that easement area. We're not looking to impact those utilities where those crossings are taking place. We have to kind of match those grades. So again, it's one of the additional challenges. When you look at these parcels as they sit today, individually, likely none of them could be developed, with the exception of possibly Swan. But again, that property's been approved. As you mentioned, it's been marketed to try to secure a tenant, but it hasn't yielded any fruit yet. We believe a lot of the infrastructure improvements we'd be proposing would be the catalyst to let that happen.
Makes sense, thank you. And then, I think the last question I have is, which you kind of answer with the order of operations. The through road would be the first thing. My only concern would be if we approved to change it to business, but something happened where that through road fell through, whether it be you just can't work with the property, the way it goes, like the grading, things like that. Would the intent still be to develop the business lot, even if you couldn't build that road through to the industrial? Or would essentially the whole thing be scrapped? My concern would be a lot of the relief to the traffic congestion is essentially that road that goes through. So my concern would be that road doesn't happen, but the business development still does. And then that creates more of a traffic problem.
Well, I'll say this.
I'm going to step in here for a minute, and we're considering a zone change here, the infrastructure. I understand they're trying
It
to
was all
answer your
presented,
questions.
though.
Excuse me?
It was all presented as part of the zone change. I'm just asking questions about what they presented. If it wasn't presented, I wouldn't be asking the questions.
I think we can provide a simple response. Under the existing conditions, even if that were changed to business, without those infrastructure improvements, without that through road connectivity, I don't believe it would be a viable parcel on its own. I think these infrastructure improvements that we're talking about is what would make it viable.
Okay, thank you. That was my last question.
All set?
All set?
Thank you. Anyone else? Caleb?
Okay. Hi,
Hello.
just got a couple for you. Just trying to clear up a couple things. You said that you had already secured, to my colleague, you had already secured all the easement agreements. Just the road extension on the intersection of Curtis and West Street, it looked like from your just quick detail on the map there, that road is gonna be expanded at the traffic signal itself. So there is currently a parcel there, not owned by you guys, but you've had conversations or overtures to that individual also?
Correct, yes. Yes, there's been discussions amongst the, you know, the applicant for this application with those property owners, and they were very amenable to grant whatever would be required, because again, these infrastructure improvements not only benefit the parcels that are subject to this, but also those parcels as well.
Is that corner lot, is that Anthony Properties also? Did they put those together? I'm just not seeing it on the GS map.
Yes, all those corner parcels were, I believe they were consolidated as part of the Anthony Properties approval. I'm not sure if those maps have been filed yet or, you know, memorialized, but yes, that was all part of that
Okay,
Anthony
so
Properties
so
development.
the agreement would be with them?
Correct.
Okay.
One thing that's maybe interested in is whenever you apply for a certificate, that's the term of art from the Office of State Traffic Administration, they will give you a list of conditions that you must fulfill before you can do anything, literally anything. And that can include, you will acquire property from landowner X, a sliver widening of whatever for an extra lane. You cannot do anything. You cannot get a building permit until you get your OSTA certificate and you comply with all of their conditions of approval. So we'll be back before you, and you will scrutinize everything that we're doing, and we welcome that scrutiny, but you also have this tremendous colleague in oversight, which is OSTA, who is going to say, you cannot put a shovel in the ground until you satisfy all our requirements when it comes to traffic.
Okay. And then the last one, and I don't know if it's supposed to be here or not, but you did talk about some of the great infrastructure improvements that you'll make, the water and sewer, but we didn't see a water approval on our list. It was pretty much everybody else. Would that be part of this? Would that be part of a subdivision site plan, Dave?
Through the chair, it'd be more on the subdivision plan, because this is essentially theoretical.
Conceptual. Right, so we don't know usage and
Right.
flow rates and stuff like that?
Yeah, if
Okay,
you don't
all
have
right,
the
that makes sense
users.
to me then.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You all set? Okay. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will move to public comment.
Thank
Is
you.
there anyone here that did not speak at the last meeting that would like to speak at this meeting? Please come to the podium and state your name. We'll start, and we'll work our way around. Name and address, please, for the record.
Yeah, my name is Zach Lucenti. I'm at 160 Curtis Street. And I'm in favor of the zone change for the simple fact that I am a small business owner in town. And I'm hoping that the tax revenue from this plan would also help lower my personal taxes, not only personal, but my small business taxes. And then I could take that money and put it back into the local economy, spend it at the other small businesses, the other local restaurants, the other ice cream shops, and help generate an overall better local economy.
All right, thank you. Next. Anyone else?
Kurt Hollis, Sawmill Lane, Plantsville, Connecticut. Obviously, I'm in favor of this because we have a bird in the hand. We kind of know what can come on this piece of property from this presentation that these folks gave. It's an I-2 piece. I've developed other pieces in town, and there's something going around on Southington Talks of stop this, stop that. It's what could come from an I-2. So when you folks look at this, you're changing a zone to either make the decision that don't understand planning per se. You're on the Planning and Zoning Commission, but planning is you plan for the futuristic of this community. What could come on an I-2 zone is much more impactful than what you see in front of you. So that's something that you folks have to decide when you hear from your constituents who voted you on that you may or may not want this development. It could be a lot worse. It could be more impactful. So when I built my transfer station on Trano Drive, all we heard was negative, negative, negative. So an I-2 is so much more impactful. You're downgrading the zone, and you see what you're getting in front of you. Tomorrow, if this is denied, we'll say, you may see a plan that impacts these people who complain about it much more and great. So what happens is they're going to submit this, and you're going to decide, do you change the zone or not? and you're gonna know kind of what you're gonna get. And then they're gonna present something to you that you could then scrutinize and put your parameters on and fit into your likings or not likings. But if you don't change the zone to downgrade, the neighborhood will actually be impacted worse. So, like I said, I'm in favor of it. There's a tax base that instantly comes from it because they developed that commercial site. Does the I-2 6 years down the line come, which will be more impactful to the community? But something will come to this piece of property. It's along 84. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And you folks have to make the decision as you know what is in front of you, and is that better than what you don't know? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Evening, my name is Cody Fondremy. I live at 2 Juniper Road in Southington, Connecticut. About 3 years ago, I'm a new resident of town. 3 years ago, my wife and I, along with my in-laws who are my neighbor, we purchased our home at 2 Juniper Road with the goal of raising our family in Southington. I'm from Ellington, small town. We chose Southington because it had a lot of great amenities and it had that small town feel. I drive an hour to my job every single day to come back to Southington because it's a great place to raise a family. That was our goal. I have 2 twins on the way in July. So we're very excited for this next phase. We love our neighborhood. I have been paying before my current employment, I was a political operative. I worked in multiple state and congressional campaigns throughout the country. I decided to exit that work, and then I got an MBA. So I understand, a good understanding of how these town governments function. I've been following Southington politics a lot, and this is the first issue that I felt like I need to get invested in. Because this entryway on Curtis is 600 yards from my backyard. I have seen how the Southington police are already stressed out with a lot of issues. They're requesting more officers, how our fire department already has several issues. So we're asking our town to absorb another large parcel like this that's gonna require a whole host of additional fundings and revenues to support. The argument that we're gonna have a tax bracket that's gonna support that, unfortunately, if we look at a wide range of studies from towns that accept these major proposals, that tax revenue often doesn't make it to where it's supposed to be, like developers and others say it does. A long scale scope of that. Where I grew up, we had this situation happen several times and the town voted it down because we knew this wouldn't happen. I'm concerned about the traffic. Yes, I understand that Curtis has several traffic issues, but I fail to see how several small improvements, while adding a throughway, a shopping center, warehouses, and other things are gonna improve the traffic. We can make it look cleaner, we can make the road look better. The town can do that on their own if they choose to do so. The town has the tax revenue. I'm also concerned about the crime. My current role is I have some law enforcement experience. We know when we add these major developments, I've submitted for the record several studies that show adding these major box places where we already have a lot of retail will further increase our crime level. It's right on the highway. I have several friends who have talked to our troopers about this. Like, this is a perfect area for them to come in and conduct business and then pop right on the highway, especially with a throughway. And just, it's a general concern that like our property values and other things will be negatively affected for those who are directly in this. I chose Southington because I thought this would be a great place to raise my family, where we could balance convenience, we could balance great community and resources all together. But something like this is deeply concerning to me, that this is gonna be 600 yards from my family. It's the reality of it. So I know there are a lot of people that, yeah, I've talked to other people in town, it's just not in Southington Talks that are concerned about this. As someone who's worked this field before, you guys have a duty to your constituency, not a duty to the potential tax earnings. Like, this town, from what I've seen, doesn't do a great job of managing its tax earnings. We're constantly asking to raise numbers, but then we're asking to do different projects. What we need to do is focus on giving the constituency what they want. And this is gonna be the issue that forces me to get involved. I really don't want anybody on this council to vote for this, but it's something that next November, if folks, in 2027, when several seats are up, if folks are gonna vote for this, they need to be prepared that their community members are gonna say, hey, that's wrong, with the additional crime and additional issues that might not happen now, but they're gonna happen when my kids are 12 or 13, and that parking lot has activity that we see through Bristol and Harvard, where other areas are increasing in crime. So I encourage you to think long and hard about voting for this, because it's not something that is gonna affect us 2-3 years down the road. It's something that's going to affect our community when many of you have moved on to different positions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Young. I'm at 8 Brothers Way in Southington. My location is actually as you go up West Street, Churchill, goes down to Brothers Way. Built our house here in 1997, so we've seen a ton of growth on West Street. So my biggest concern, I'll echo the comments just made before me. Biggest issue is with retail and hotels and 20-inch additional gas pumps. You're going to bring a ton of traffic to the area. And if not every car is going to be coming off some exit right off the highway, Curtis Street is right below where Churchill is. It's a very dangerous intersection. I've been hit with my daughter in the car 15 years ago, going up, just waiting with my foot on the gas and my foot on the brake, and I got basically a car tried to cut in behind me and sideswiped me in the back. Just 2 weeks ago, my son was waiting at the same, it was 8 o'clock at night. He was positioned coming up West Street to turn left into Churchill. A woman behind him said she didn't see the car, and it came out of nowhere, but he had his blinker on from the base of the hill. The woman cut behind him, and the car was coming up on the right, flipped over on top of the other car next to it. And so luckily, no one was seriously injured. But I've seen this become an actual Indy 500 on West Street. And my concern would be on the traffic side is you're going to have an access point, which is very convenient for people coming down from the Bristol area, down through Southington that way, coming down to a very already heavily trafficked corridor. And also cars that are going up West Street towards Bristol, I think there's no speed limit there. And now you're going to widen the road perhaps, but you're going to have more traffic going through that area. So my big concern is I'm opposed to this. I'm hoping that you oppose this zoning change because the timing of retail is open for business close to 24/7 versus if it remains for more industrial, it's typically a 8 to 6 type operation. So the timing of when people will be working and when that would be accessed by those folks would be more limited. The traffic will be not as heavy because you've got people coming from all over to these retail, to the gas station, to the hotel. And then lastly, the additional crime. I've seen this town has gone from a quiet, small town to now it's close to 50,000 people, and we're bringing in a ton of businesses, and I've seen a lot more situations with police involvement at Target, which is right around the corner from us. And if you look at easy access off the highway, Southington has that on both West Street and on Queen Street. So I just wanted to express my opposition to this 100%. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, guys. Jim Morelli, 124 Bristol Street. I had made a list of all the things that I was going to tell you that was great about this project, but I saw that in the last meeting you talked about all that. So a couple of things I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight were the MUT, the mixed-use zone that we changed where the Anthony property is. That was, I think, 46 acres of very difficult to develop property that sat and sat and sat, as I too. As a planning and zoning guy, we looked to do something to make that more productive, so we looked at different options. And we decided that it would be great to allow multiple uses in that area to get people to be incentivized to build in there. And what do we get? We got 255 apartments, and we have 17,500 square feet of commercial retail, maybe, because it's got a pool and a clubhouse in it. So we thought we were gonna get a bunch of businesses in there with a little bit of residential, and what we got was basically a ton of apartments with cars and people, not what we wanted. And I read a lot about the POCD. The number one concern in the POCD every year, or every 10 years that we've done it, is that the people in town don't want development. They don't want more houses. So, again, we thought as a commission that an MUT would be nice because we could get a little bit more building, but with commercial and not have a lot of impact on West Street in and out. I looked at this whole thing. I saw that several times this developer has said he wants to partner with the town. This is a huge $96 million project. This is a big deal. I don't see anybody putting that road in and building one thing and then walking away. So I heard, I've talked to a lot of people in town, obviously. I also think that the way this is laid out with the power lines and the buffers, that the buffer that they have off of Spring Street is way more than any buffer that you guys usually see, because you have a 4-foot berm and some trees on it. So I don't think that's really a concern. I also can tell you that as a town councilor and a former planning and zoning guy, Spring Street is a problem, right? We hear all the time, trucks are going up and down Spring Street, and why don't you widen Spring Street? And we don't have millions of dollars in our coffers to do that. So I think that this design is a really good one. I think if they do it correctly, you'll take a lot of pressure off of Spring Street and Curtis Street, and put it in an industrial area where it goes. I think that pretty much touches most of what I said. Again, I think what they've told you is this is very difficult property to develop. And so the question is, will it always stay undeveloped? At some point, it's gonna get developed. And I like the way that they did the road that goes close to 84 and then allows the buildings to be next to that. I travel for work a lot, all over the country, and I go to industrial buildings for my job. And I can't tell you how many places have an access road next to the main road that has all the businesses in that quadrant. And another thing I also wanted to say before I leave is that I think it's really commendable that these guys want to put a $96 million or whatever, $98 million project in an enterprise zone and not ask you for any kind of concessions. That's a big deal. So I'm in favor of this. I do realize, the biggest thing, I would like you guys during site plan to suggest to this developer that he get with Anthony Properties and try to make the Curtis Street exit entrance across from Churchill. So once again, we've been trying to purchase property there to get an alignment on that intersection. We know it's a traffic problem. There's accidents there every day on both Curtis and Churchill. And so now we have an opportunity to maybe move Churchill across, or at least in an intersection where you can get the traffic light to take care of both problems. That would be huge. And again, if these guys want to partner with us and they want to work with us and they're willing to work with Anthony, then I think we can get a benefit of that out of it. So that's one of several benefits that you'll get by making this zone change. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is William Cortez. I live at 372 Curtis Street. You have to excuse me, I've got a little frog in my throat, and my brain don't work too well because I've gotten a lot of damage in my head from my last career as a police officer. I've lived in Curtis Street for 30 years. During that time, I've seen a lot of developments around us, commercial, business, et cetera. I've also seen a lot of accidents in our area. I know there's going to be some improvement at the Curtis Street, West Street intersection, where you're going to put a right-hand lane, maybe a left-hand lane coming down West Street. I don't know if the state approved that or not, or if they were going to do that, or one of the companies here is going to pay for that, or if the town. I know we're going to get 200, as stated, 250 apartments on the corner, which is adjacent to this property that we're talking about to get developed. I've seen a lot of developments. I was a policeman in the city of Waterbury. I've seen a lot of big developments down there during the 70s and 80s and 90s. And what did it bring us? Yeah, it brought us some tax increases. But a lot of crime, a lot of problems, a lot of traffic congestion. And the roads were a lot bigger down there than they were, we're talking up here. My property, my house, in the last year, my mailbox was struck and knocked down, and it's mounted in cement on a pole 3 times, from people who just zoom down that road, don't pay attention. A lot of traffic has been increasing on my street, especially now because we have the, I believe it's the HQ, they have their lot on the bottom of the street there. In the morning I'm retired, so I try to sleep late, but in the morning you hear dump trucks coming up and down from the landscaping business. There's more truck traffic on that street. The street is narrow. There are no sidewalks. My wife, 2 weeks ago, was walking. She does her walk every morning. She's coming up Curtis Street. She's looking at oncoming traffic. Car from behind a car was coming the opposite direction. Another car went around it and almost hit her because the roads are narrow. All right. Like I said, there's no sidewalks or what have you. So we're going to have some problems. Now you're adding 250 apartments there. People are going to want to walk around the neighborhood. They're going to walk around hills. Curtis Street is all hills. So, you know, you're going to have more, possibly more pedestrian accidents or what have you. I know we've had more accidents on like West Street and Curtis Street because the ambulances, police and fire are always going down our road, more so every year. So I am against this project, basically. I really am. If you add on the traffic that's going to this hotel now, from what I hear, and I hear this from people from other towns, that we're gonna get a super Stop and Shop.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay. That's gonna add even more traffic, 30, gas stations and whatnot. That's too much. It's something that we really don't need. I know it's maybe good for the tax base or what have you, but in the future, I just don't agree with this. I don't want to see it, basically. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, with that, I guess we're gonna close the public hearing.
Oh, the applicant can rebut if they want.
Do you have any final thoughts?
20 seconds. Thank you for your attention. If you have any lingering questions, we would love to answer them. This is the first step of, as we said, very, very many steps. And we look forward to continuing to work with the town, all departments, this commission, your wetland commission, the state of Connecticut, to help bring this to fruition. The very first thing I said 2 weeks ago was, ultimately, your job under the statute is this in the best interest of the overall community? And I think with what Kevin demonstrated with no impacts to our closest residential neighbors, you don't have to play that, you don't have to think about, is this in the best interest of the overall community of Southington, but it could impact residential neighbors. We're not going to impact residential neighbors, and we'll continue to explore that. We'll continue to explore the traffic issues, but this is really an opportunity to bring this really large area of Southington to create some real economic benefit, taxes, utilities, and jobs. So we appreciate all your attention.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. All right, thank you very much. With that, we're going to close the public hearing. We're going to move on to item B, Sarah Smith, Momentum Solar, special permit application to install a ground-mounted solar array of 28 modules, subject to 1C3D and 7B23 of the regulations. Property located at 20 Brownstone Drive, Zone R40. This is SPU number 726. I'm looking for a table. Commissioner Chaplinsky.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table item number SPU number 726.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coles with a second.
They did grant the 30-day extension.
30-day extension, okay. Voice vote?
Sure, yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. All right, now we're going to move into the business meeting. Item A, Southington 2 LLC petition to change the zoning district boundary from I-2 to B-zone. Properties located at 682 Curtis Street and a portion of 115 Summit Farms Road. This is ZZ number 585.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in consideration of the testimony communicated by both the general public and applicant during the public hearings held on April 7th and April 21st, I have the following concerns leading me to make a motion to deny zone change 585. Below are the stated concerns. More roads to maintain will require more staff time and seasonal materials such as salt, asphalt, pothole patch, and equipment. Is there a long-term gain? Is it needed to fill a void? No, as industrial equipment can go in there and it is a tax generator without such a demand on services. The POCD does not see this area as an area of concern for being improperly zoned. Development can still happen with a private road without connecting to Curtis, which avoids the traffic concerns posed under the current proposal. More appropriate areas for commercial, infill, and redevelopment on Queen or West Street itself would be preferable. Off-site improvements required and proposed in a very focused area, not solving larger traffic issue in that portion of the corridor. Likely wetland impacts that can be avoided along Curtis by not doing the road improvements. There's no business zone immediately adjacent. The project would allow for residential development in a non-residential zone without transitional uses, which residential would likely be up against I-2 uses. The argument that the site has not been developed for industrial uses because of access and infrastructure does not hold up. The recent construction of a large warehouse expansion, which is Connecticut Moving and Storage that relies on access as part of their business plan, points this out. I disagree that the project is not reliant on the existing roadway network. The connector road is intended to serve the development and does not create a new nexus to the developed areas. The proposed upgrades only address problems created by the development and rely on private agreements with other landowners.
So we have a motion from Vice Chair Chaplinsky. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Coles. Any discussion, Commissioner discussion? I'd like to take the opportunity to make a couple of indications here. Under Section 8F3 of the zoning regulations, the following decision considerations must be made. Before any zone change application, the Commission shall determine that the proposed zone change is in accordance with the Plan of Conservation and Development, B, that it is suitable for the intended location, and C, it will aid in protecting the public health, safety, or welfare. I find this application lacking in those three areas. The petition to change this current I-2 zone to business encompasses approximately 37.4 acres directly south of Summit Farms Road. There is no B zone directly adjacent to the area proposed to be changed. Most of Curtis Street is classified as a local roadway by Connecticut DOT, while a short portion from the intersection of Lazy Lane to West Street is considered minor collector. Major upgrades to Curtis Street will certainly change the definition and impact of these roads. On page 66 of the 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development reads, the guidance clearly leans into redeveloping existing sites where possible and encourages the use of existing appropriately zoned lands. Expansion of retail should be limited to areas serviced by existing roadways that can handle anticipated traffic volumes and infrastructure needs. Any developer looking to develop these parcels will need to build a road. It's not exclusive to this application. With that said, I'm going to ask for a roll.
Commissioner McGuire?
No.
Hold on, maybe should we clarify?
Yeah.
Motion to deny.
Yeah,
Motion
just-
to deny,
yeah,
I'm
so make
sorry.
sure everybody knows what it means.
A deny is a
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
right?
fair.
Yes
The
vote is
opposite.
Yeah.
to deny.
Yes, vote is to deny. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay. So Commissioner McGuire?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
No.
Commissioner Coles?
yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
And Chair Wolowski?
Chair Wolowski is a yes. Motion carries to deny. All right, moving on to our next item. Item B, Sarah Smith, Momentum Solar Special Permit Application to install a ground-mounted solar array of 28 modules subject to ICD 3D and 7B23 of the regs. Property located at 20 Brownstone Drive, Zone R40. This is SPU number 726. I'm looking for a motion.
Make a
Table.
motion to table SPU 726.
We have a motion from Commissioner Coles.
Second.
Second.
Could we do those together? A motion for SPU 726
And 19.
and SPR 1915?
Sure.
Dave, can you voice
Yeah,
vote?
that's fine.
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Moving on to item C. Guess we should have probably piggybacked the two of those. Sarah Smith Momentum Solar.
Oh, we just did that. You did.
We just did.
All right. Item D, Paradise Pools LLC floodplain filling application to install an above-ground swimming pool with deck with a 100-year floodplain with proposed mitigation. Property located at 59 Water Street, Zone R12. This is FF number 281.
Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, I don't see the
Anyone here?
applicant, but, go ahead. Please go up to the podium.
I thought you said a business meeting, you weren't open to speak. No, I am the owner. I'm Kenneth Paul Gray. Recently moved to Southington, actually the week before Christmas. I grew up here in town, love this town. I went to high school here, and now my children are coming to schools here in town. But we, my wife and her family and I own and operate Paradise Pools in Plainville, Connecticut, and we're looking to put in an above-ground swimming pool and deck at our house at 59 Water Street.
Do we have any questions or comments from the commission?
Can you just kind of take us through what the extent of the floodplain filling is and just kind of give us a little detail about what you're doing?
Yep. Hang on, I got my paper.
We have the cubic yardage on the application itself, if he doesn't
With
have
the-
it handy.
With the inland wetlands meeting I had earlier this month, they had a bunch of questions that I had to answer in regards to what needed to be done. There's no disturbance of the floodway. The elevations need to be taken before and after. The only thing that will be adjusted is I'm bringing processed stone to level the site, which is only 21 foot round. So it's not a big difference, and I have to re-level on the area that's being disturbed.
This is the brand-new house that was put right there?
Yeah, it was built last year.
I walked by it with my dog. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Did you address the volume of material being moved?
I believe it's 4 yards.
Mr. Chairman, so the proposed filling amount is 13.3 cubic yards, and the compensation is about 14.81.
correct.
So there was a stipulation with the recommendation that came from the Conservation Commission, and that was, as the applicant said, the elevation should be taken before, during, and after the mitigation to establish the correct finished grade to make sure that, yardage is removed. So that can be a stipulation.
Okay. All right, so we're ready for action with that stipulation. All right.
I just have a
All set?
quick question. Did you say you lived on Water Street?
Correct.
Is that just a coincidence? You own a pool company?
I assume for a long time ago.
The humor there, Mike.
You got it.
All right. Seeing no more questions, we're going to
Just need a motion on that.
look for a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion to approve item FF number 281.
Second.
With the steps.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Yep, with the stipulations that elevation should be taken before, during, and after the mitigation to establish the correct finished grade. And then also pending the health, fire, and water right receipt. So,
Second approved.
Second
With that-
approved.
With that, okay. Dave, can you call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner McGuire.
Yes.
Commissioner Locke. Yes. Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich?
Yes.
Kwinsky?
Yes.
And Chair Wolowski.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations on your pool. Administrative items? No plan. The POCD. POCD. And why am I on the wrong page? No worries. Missing a page, that's why.
This is what y'all came for. Bring them back inside. Bring them back inside.
Excuse me, Chair. Excuse me, Chair, before we wrap up the business stuff, I wasn't sure where to say this before. I just wanted to say, Chair Wolowski, Vice Chair Chaplinsky, I thought your comments and what you said about the previous application was well thought out, and really appreciate what you put together for that. So, I agree with 99.5% of everything you said.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And you said it better than what I would have, so I appreciate it.
We'll see if we can work on that extra. Got the extra mile. All right, item 11, the Plan of Conservation and Development. With that, please state your name.
Hi, I'm Chanel Abdel. I'm with SLR Consulting, and I'm working today with my colleague Taylor Daigle, also with SLR Consulting. We have a presentation here today. So we're here today to present the draft POCD and determine substantial completion and vote for substantial completion on that. We've been working closely with the POCD subcommittee and have made great progress and have an official draft plan here. I think it was all sent out to you. Did you all receive this? Okay, great. So we've been working with the POCD subcommittee on this, and I'm gonna go to the next slide. And I just wanted to present today what we've been doing, how we got to this draft, and then a little bit about the draft plan. It is a long document. It's 100 and something pages. There's a lot of information in this, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but give you a pretty good overview of all the things that we've done through this process. So a little bit about what is a Plan of Conservation and Development. So also known as a POCD, it's required by the state for municipalities to adopt this every 10 years. And it has to be adopted by the municipality's Planning and Zoning Commission. So while we've been working with the POCD subcommittee, we are now at the stage where the POCD subcommittee voted that it's substantially complete and present it here today for you all to determine if it's substantially complete as well. And so really what the POCD does is it outlines, the goals and priorities for its natural and built environments. And then it considers broader state and regional planning efforts as well to try to make sure that what we're planning is consistent with those efforts. All right. So next, a little bit about the planning process. So as I stated, we've been working with the POCD subcommittee as well as the Planning and Zoning Department, so working closely with Dave. And the timeline we started back in spring of 2025, and we started there with doing our data collection and existing conditions analysis. We then moved on to doing some public outreach, so that started in spring of 2025 as well. We'll go into a little bit detail about what we did with public outreach, included a survey and some community meetings. And that wrapped up around winter of 2025 with our final public meeting. We then also developed our community vision and goals. That was around winter 2025, and this was presented at that final public meeting that I just mentioned. And all that, the community vision goals were really determined based off our public outreach and our data collection and existing conditions analysis. And now today we're presenting our draft plan, and then we will have our final POCD ready by summer of 2026. So a little bit about the Southington Today chapter. So this is the existing conditions analysis. So in that chapter, you'll see information about community identity and land use, households and housing, transportation and infrastructure, economic conditions and key commercial areas, as well as information about community facilities, recreation, and sustainability. And this chapter really is just an inventory of existing resources. It also highlights some key trends in the town, what we're seeing related to population, housing, transportation, infrastructure, any concerns that are being mentioned there as well with active transportation. So what do we currently have? And what is our current water, sewer, stormwater infrastructure? And we go a little bit into the labor force and trends related to that as well. So to touch base on our public engagement, so this really was the foundation for our planning efforts. So we started this with a community survey, and this community survey allowed us to gain some insights on community needs, concerns, and priorities. And then after that community survey, we took those results and we presented them at our community open house. So this was held in September of 2025. And here we presented on our key findings, and we also had activities for participants to, tell us a little bit more. We saw a lot of information in that community survey about concerns around traffic and safety. And so we had an activity there for people to share some information about what were some of those key areas that they were concerned about, so we could dig a little deeper and get an idea of some actions that might be able to address those concerns. At this open house, we also had a visioning activity, so people got postcards from the future so they could write out, what do they see for Southington in the next 10 years. And that really helped inspire our vision statement that we will show you in a few slides. After that community open house number 1, we took that information, we developed our vision statement, we developed our goals and some of our strategies, and we met with key stakeholders at a roundtable meeting. So this included meetings with key town staff as well as key stakeholders to go over, what we have so far and get their opinions on if it's feasible, if there's things missing, if there's any gaps that they're noticing. And so those were really helpful to really flesh out the draft goals and strategies. The POCD subcommittee also did some email outreach to key stakeholders to get some feedback and make sure we're touching base with all of those key members of the public. And then we had our final community open house on February 11th. And this is where we presented those draft actions, strategies, and goals to the public and the vision statement. So here again, we had an open house style meeting where people could come in and take their time and really review those draft goals and strategies. And we also received from written feedback. So people who weren't able to attend were given a draft and were able to provide feedback there as well. All right. So I'm not going to read this fully, but this is the vision statement that we have in our draft POCD, really highlighting what we heard about Southington today from the public. People really expressed that they valued the town's excellent schools, the recreational amenities, and regional accessibility, but then also expressed a strong desire to preserve Southington's identity amidst ongoing growth. And then we have some information about what we see for the next decade, and so these are really captured in our goals, which we'll see in the next slide. So our goals here, we have our 5 goals that we really pulled, and this is the foundation for our plan. It really sets up the rest of the chapters. So our goals include preserve community identity and manage growth, invest in community facilities, recreation, and sustainability, expand housing options and improve affordability, improve transportation connectivity infrastructure, and strengthen commercial areas and support local businesses. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail about these goals and kind of show you, why we came up with these 5 goals, why they're the foundation. So I'm going to pass it to Taylor to talk about that first goal.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good night. My name is Taylor. I'm a community planner with SLR as well. So the first goal that was developed is preserve community identity and manage growth. There were 6 strategies that went along with this, and they were targeted at balancing quality of life, what makes Southington the community that people want to live in today, and how do we manage the growth for the town in the future. So these ideas really came from community input and what we heard about what makes the town special, and as well as the concerns that were voiced, one of which was a strong concern for overdevelopment. But also recognizing that there's desire for continued progress that's going to keep the town prosperous over the next 10 years. So there are a total of 44 action items tied to this goal. These are focused on growth, open spaces, agriculture, historic and cultural resources in the town, and then the town's broad identity and community spirit. The second goal is invest in community facilities, recreation, and sustainability. So we have 5 strategies here. They're focused on community investment that enhance quality of life and address some of the concerns or ideas that people had for improvements in that regard. So these are focused on services, amenities, and long-term success and safety in the community. So some of the points to highlight that were brought up and brought us to this goal. include community input about, excellent community amenities and facilities right now, but some opportunity for improvement in recreation and sustainability offerings. We have 39 actions tied to this goal, and addressing topics of facilities and services, recreation, sustainability, community and climate resiliency, and protection of natural resources as well. And then the third goal that I'll touch on is expand housing options and improve affordability. So there's two primary strategies here. This goal itself is dedicated to just focusing on housing in Southington, improving those conditions with an emphasis on the diversity and the affordability and accessibility of units in town. So this was in response to community input saying, they don't necessarily feel that housing is attainable for most residents, or maybe the existing diversity could be better to match the variety of household types that we have in the community. There are 10 actions tied to this goal here, focused on improving the affordability and diversity of the existing stock, but it's also pretty well aligned with new guidance from the state, and puts Southington in a position to plan for housing changes and updates as that's coming about now. And I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, so our fourth goal is strengthen commercial areas and support local businesses. So this really came about from our community survey as well as our community meetings, where we heard people expressing the desire to really prioritize redevelopment and utilize underutilized sites. So there was concern about overdevelopment, so making sure that anything we're prioritizing is really focused on utilizing any underutilized sites. And then we also heard information about a strong support for local businesses. So that was something that people were really mentioning in the community survey. And then there are also some concerns related to the public realm features in commercial areas like streetscapes, sidewalks, and then pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, as well as just the overall design and aesthetic of our commercial areas. And there were 26 action items to support these strategies that are listed on the screen. And then our fifth goal, improve transportation, connectivity, and infrastructure. So, this one, we heard a lot from residents, as I stated earlier, with traffic congestion and speeding as major concerns in towns. Also, there was strong support for walking and biking infrastructure. And there was also note about limited transit services in town. So this goal really addresses those issues, as well as some other utility systems, such as the public water system and public sewer system, and then other utilities. So this goal really gets to that, as well as these strategies. And there are 32 action items for this goal. And so that brings us to implementation. And you'll see on the screen there's a lot of PZC. Don't worry, the whole table is not all PZC. There are other responsible entities on this list, but I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of what the implementation table looks like. So we have this in the back of the plan where we list the action items, the responsible entity. If there's any supporting entities, they would be listed here as well as timelines, so either ongoing, short-term, or long-term. And so this table can help provide guidance for implementation as they move through the next 10 years. And then we also suggest in the implementation chapter the development of an implementation subcommittee for the POCD. So making sure that you have someone to track progress throughout the next 10 years and see what action items are still relevant. As things change and come up, you can amend your POCD. So having a committee to really guide that can be a helpful tool as well. All right, and I'm going to pass it to Taylor again.
So the last piece here is the future land use plan. So this complements the implementation plan. It's the visual representation of the strategies and actions that we've laid out. So this plan is a tool for you to use while you're making land use decisions and decisions on applications that are before you. It is not like it's not an exact prediction of what's going to come in the future, but it can help guide those decisions. So this future land use plan has the categories of low, medium, high density residential, mixed use, commercial, industrial, institutional, and open spaces. It was drafted with a lot of consideration for your current zoning districts, understanding that that's what's been guiding development right now and in the direction that the town intends to go in. And it's also supplemented with, analysis of natural land constraints and infrastructure, not capacity, but the availability. Where is it currently, and what could be further supported? Does anyone have any questions about the content of the plan at this time, or this is a timeline of kind of next steps about what we're here for tonight. I don't want to jump ahead too far if you'd like to talk about the meat of the plan first.
We just wish you spoke earlier today.
Yeah.
Situation a little bit.
At the beginning.
Would have been some good background, yeah.
Yeah. Your vision statement probably could have sold it.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Well, so for tonight, we're here for, last week the subcommittee voted that the plan was substantially complete over the course of our work with them for the last year. Tonight, if you are all comfortable with the plan, you can vote for substantial completion. And what that will do is include a date for transmitting this plan to the region and the town council. And on that date that's decided, which we tentatively have for Friday right now, but there's flexibility, once those documents are transmitted, the 65-day required review period would open. So the town can collect comments from citizens, from the region, from town council, from yourselves as well. And those can all be documented before the public hearing, which is tentatively scheduled for July. Throughout that 65-day period, you might receive non-substantive edits and substantive edits. Non-substantive is if there's an error in the text, if we need to make a couple adjustments here and there, maybe formatting, photos, things like that. A substantive edit would be more a change to the goals, the strategies, or the actions, or future land use plan that are outlined in this plan. So anything that's going to change the implementation of the POCD, that information we would want to have clearly documented, and that would be a part of your motion. Let's say you have the public hearing and it goes well and you want to vote on it that night. You would vote with all of those substantial comments added to the motion. But we are here to answer any questions that you guys might have about our process, the work with the subcommittee, and just any thoughts about the plan itself.
Any questions? No? Otherwise, I just want to say a huge thank you to both Chanel and Taylor for all of your help with this document. It was a big undertaking, as you can tell, and they made our job much easier in regards to that lift. So thank you very much from us. And I want to say thank you to the subcommittee, several of which are here tonight. Caleb, my colleague here, and Val Garino and Ted Cabata here. They're also in the public here. So thank you all for your help with this. And even if you folks hear this afterwards on the video, thank you so much for everybody, because it was a big lift, and it was a fun time too. So thank you.
Dave did a big job.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Dave, Dave, my sincerest apologies. That is so true, yeah. I had everybody lined up in my head, too, and Dave, I owe you a huge thank you as well. You were like the second big lift after SLR, so.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Todd for taking the lead on the subcommittee. We got off to a rocky start with that, some of you may remember. So with that said, thank you, Todd, and the members of the committee that are here. I'd like to thank you personally. Dave, thank you. Ladies, thank you. It's a big step. Every 10 years, it's good to see that we're nearing completion. So again, thanks to everyone. Caleb, appreciate it. All right.
I think we can approve that flow chart essentially. I mean, agree with the dates on there, and I'd just like to add that the open space plan, the update to the current plan would be part of it, so it's a companion to the draft plan.
Okay. So, I mean, if we're, I feel that we're substantial completion. I feel that we're ready for a vote. Everyone on board with that? Okay. You call the roll on that, Dave?
Sure.
Do we need a motion or just?
Sure.
I'll make, yeah.
John, wanna make a
Yeah,
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, or move the substantially completed 2026 POC document to the town council and the council region of governments by the dates listed on the flow chart.
Caleb, a second?
Do we need the open space plan with that?
Oh,
As a-
And the open space.
and the open space plan as well. Thank you.
And I will second that.
All right.
Commissioner McGuire?
Yes.
Commissioner Locks?
Yes.
Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Britton?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Jablonski?
Yes.
And Chair Wolowski.
Wolowski's a yes, motion carries. Thank you, everyone, again. Administrative items, I don't believe there are any.
No, Mr. Chairman.
And so, receipt of new applications and items to schedule for public hearings. Dave?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a few. First one is an oversized garage for special permit on Bellevue Court. Second is a petition to do a zoning district boundary change on West Street, from West Street Business to I-1. And the third and fourth are for Cody Range up off of Jude Lane. They want to build a 12,000 square foot steel frame building adjacent to the existing driving range.
That's Chris Cody Golf.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, well, I guess we'll look forward to seeing that in our future. Item 14, executive session. I guess,
Do we need a motion?
Make a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
should we,
Just gotta wait till.
everybody good with, do we take a break or
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind.
take a ladies' room before we
Yeah.
go?
I'd welcome that. Either or.